The meeting at Arcturus Gate. The Thalrix Dominion's flagship shimmered as it dropped out of hyperspace, its hull glistening like a blade of polished bone. Flanked by a dozen escort ships, the vessel dwarfed the orbital station it now approached. Arcturus Gate, the largest human-built military platform in the solar system. Inside the station's command chamber, Colonel Sarah Voss stood straight-backed in her pressed uniform, arms folded behind her. She didn't blink as the Thalrix delegation stepped through the shimmering airlock gate. They came adorned in semi-organic armor, elegant and disturbingly fluid. Their leader, high-legged Zyrak, had no visible eyes, just a mask of ridged plating where a face should be. His voice rasped from a translator embedded in his collar. "We greet you, primitives," he said, glancing around the room with what Voss could only assume was contempt. "It is charming that you chose to meet us in person rather than send a data holo." "Very quaint." Voss didn't respond. She gestured toward the negotiation table and took her seat. Zyrak and his two advisors glided into place with exaggerated grace. Admiral Kalen, the highest-ranking unspacecom officer present, cleared his throat. "We welcome the Thalrix delegation. Earth is prepared to open dialogue concerning our place in the Galactic Compact." Zyrak chuckled, a grating, filtered sound. "There is no place for Earth in the Compact. You are not being invited to join. You are being evaluated for compliance." Silence fell. Voss didn't flinch. She'd heard the intelligence reports. The Empire didn't negotiate. They annexed. They judged civilizations based on power projection. If you couldn't push back, you were pacified, usually with orbital fire. Zyrak continued. "Your species remains charmingly attached to combustion-based warfare. You store explosives in metal tubes. You launch slugs of iron and uranium. You cling to gravity as your god of violence. Gravity," Voss said coldly, "has never let us down." Zyrak turned to her. "And you are?" "Colonel Sarah Voss, Artillery Command." "Ah, cannons and powder. I see. You command the fireworks." Voss's eyes narrowed. "I command the thunder." There was a pause. A faint hum vibrated through the station's floor, probably power cycling to defense systems. The room stayed tense. Admiral Kalen tried to steer the conversation back. "You claim Earth must comply. And if we decline?" Zyrak spread his clawed fingers in a theatrical shrug. "Then we make an example. We send a minor fleet. We reduce your orbital assets. Perhaps light a few of your cities on fire. Brief. Painless. Efficient. You consider that mercy?" Voss asked. "It is more than we offered the Kaltai or the Romir. You should feel honored." Admiral Kalen leaned forward. "So that's your offer. Compliance or destruction." "There is no shame in bending the knee," Zyrak said. "Your biology is soft. Your infrastructure brittle. You have potential, but you must be broken into usefulness." Voss stood. Her voice was calm, but steel-edged. "You've made your position clear. So let me make ours equally so." She reached into her uniform jacket and pulled out a small slate, sliding it across the table. Zyrak tilted his head, activating the projection. A grainy image appeared above it. An Earth landscape, snow-capped mountains, a concrete silo emerging from the ground like a steel fist. Across its side, painted in bold lettering, Thor's grasp. "What is this?" Zyrak asked. Voss answered flatly. "The oldest weapon still in use on Earth. Built when we still thought war was about territory. Now it's a reminder that we never stopped improving what matters. Power, range, and impact." Zyrak emitted a short, dismissive click. "A relic." Voss nodded. "Exactly. And it still works. Better than you'd expect. Do you threaten us with your museum piece?" "No," Voss said. "I'm warning you. Our ancestors built weapons to level continents. You float in orbit thinking you're untouchable, that you can look down on us from your polished decks. But if you come, and if you attack, we'll show you what happens when a rock moving at Mach 50 punches through a battleship's core." Zyrak laughed, a wheezing metallic rasp. "You would fight the Empire with rocks." Voss gave the bare smile. "Rocks, fire, steel, whatever it takes." The Thalrix rose. "Then let it be war. Your skies will burn." As they turned and walked out, the air seemed colder somehow. Kalen looked at Voss. Will it work? He asked quietly. Voss watched the closing doors. It only needs to work once. She walked out, already keying the activation code for Project Thunderclap. Orbital supremacy. The first Thalrix ship breached the thermosphere at dawn. A wedge of metal and plasma, its hull rippling with defensive fields that shimmered like oil on water. Behind it, hundreds more followed in perfect formation, blotting out stars as they dropped into low orbit. On Earth, the sky lit with false auroras. Colonel Sarah Voss stood inside the underground control bunker beneath the Kazakh steppe, 2 kilometers of rock and steel between her and the sky. The reinforced operations center buzzed with tension. Officers called out telemetry, radar returns, trajectory modeling. Every satellite link flickered red. "They're broadcasting," said Lieutenant Awan. "Standard ultimatum format. Civilians ordered to evacuate major population centers. Estimated time to orbital strike, 15 minutes. Voss nodded. "Record and store their message. We'll send our reply in Tungsten." The room was silent for a beat. "Begin Project Thunderclap ignition sequence." The words dropped like a hammer. Below them, the mountain rumbled. Deep in the bedrock, ancient machinery groaned to life. Dust drifted from seams in the ceiling. Voss watched as monitors lit up, revealing the heart of the system. Thor's grasp, Earth's final contingency, an electromagnetic, self-loading howitzer cannon, over 120 meters long, designed to launch dense core rods into orbit at impossible velocities. Built from steel and stubbornness, it had never been fired in combat. Until now, charge capacitors to 80%. Load 1 Skyam round, Voss ordered. The round itself, 10 metric tons of tungsten titanium alloy with a depleted uranium core, slid into the loading rack with a metallic boom that echoed through the entire mountain. Above, the Thalrix fleet moved into geostationary position, bright specks against the stratosphere. Their targeting systems began to spin up, preparing orbital land strikes on military installations. On global networks, human civilians watched with held breath as the feed cut to static. In the bunker, countdowns flashed across the walls. The weapon's coil arrays glowed white-hot. Every siren was silent. Every breath held. Target acquired, Awan whispered. Flagship in low orbit. Range, 460 kilometers. Elevation, 41 degrees. Fire, Voss said. The howitzer roared. No recoil, no smoke, just raw kinetic fury. The projectile left the barrel at Mach 35, invisible to the naked eye. A moment later, one of the lights in the sky blinked out. On Thalrix command ships, alerts screamed. Instruments failed to detect any energy signature. No plasma burst, no missile lock. Just a sudden, catastrophic breach of the flagship's core. It disintegrated. The impact tore through hull plating, shattered internal chambers, and sent the warship's antimatter core into a silent implosion. Debris fell like burning hail. In the bunker, someone laughed in disbelief. Direct hit. Flagship is gone. The room erupted into a flurry of activity. Thalrix fleet breaking formation, scattering. They're trying to deploy countermeasures. They can't track the projectile. It's too fast. Voss didn't smile. She was already issuing the next order. Load round 2. Target nearest command vessel. As the second Skyam round slid into place, the Thalrix began a rapid orbital reposition, trying to climb to higher altitude. But it was too late. The second shot hit another ship, a battleship-class cruiser with 5 shield arrays. It folded like tin. Wreckage tumbled through the sky, trailing plasma as the fireball lit up the northern hemisphere. Thalrix communications were in chaos. Voss tapped into a hacked frequency and listened. Shields ineffective against projectile. Kinetic origin unknown. Recommend full withdrawal. This is impossible. No energy signature. No lock. No warning. She keyed into Earth Command. We have 2 confirmed kills. The howitzer is fully operational. We request satellite-guided telemetry for strategic targeting. Back on the surface, a dozen smaller Thalrix vessels dropped into the atmosphere, launching surgical plasma strikes at military outposts. Earth's orbital defense grid was already gone. But now, Earth was answering with something far worse. Humanity's ground-based artillery opened up. Railguns hidden in hardened mountain sites fired sabot round skyward. Not fancy, not elegant, just simple, devastating slugs that hit like thunderbolts. One Thalrix cruiser attempted a retaliatory strike against the launch site, but never made it. A third Skyhammer round met it mid-descent. The impact shattered the craft before it entered the troposphere. In the bunker, cheers broke out. "They're retreating," Awan said. "Let them," Voss replied. "And while they run, I want every launcher on the planet hot. The next round of shots won't be warnings. We aim for their command ships." She turned to the central monitor, now showing a live satellite feed of the Thalrix fleet pulling back in a higher orbit. Less certain now. "Afraid. Mock us all you want," Voss muttered. "But now they know. Old artillery isn't obsolete. It's just waiting." Thunderclap rises. High above Earth, chaos reigned. The Thalrix fleet, once majestic in its disciplined orbital ballet, was now in disarray. Command vessels scrambled to establish a secure perimeter, while escort ships drifted off formation, evasive thrusters firing desperately. Every captain on board those sleek alien vessels had seen the impossible. Two of their most heavily shielded warships, vessels considered impervious to anything short of singularity torpedoes, reduced to debris by solid metal slugs. Inside the underground command bunker in Kazakhstan, Colonel Sarah Voss stared at the tactical display. A web of red arcs and pulsing icons showed shifting Thalrix positions in mid-orbit. More ships had arrived, but they were holding farther back now, watching. Telemetry confirms the second impact penetrated through the main reactor casing, Lieutenant Awan said, voice still tense with disbelief. Radiation scatter consistent with full core failure. "They're scared," Voss replied. "Good." She turned to the weapons officer. "What's the status on the next round?" "Loading now. Extreme range variant. Sky Piercer MK-7. "Good. We're going to hit their high-orbit command relay." Awan's eyes widened. "That's nearly 800 kilometers out, which is why we built Thor's grasp on a mountain and not a naval ship," Voss said. "Gravity assists us. And the aliens? They never imagined we'd aim up." Thor's grasp roared again. The Sky Piercer left the barrel with a crack that rattled the concrete walls. At Mach 42, the projectile crossed the exosphere in seconds. High above, 3 Thalrix ships clustered around a command node. The round struck the center vessel and kept going. The kinetic energy punched through the first hull, vaporized the command node, and tore into the third ship's propulsion core before finally disintegrating. From the ground, it looked like a shooting star in reverse. In the Imperial fleet, panic spread like fire. "This is not plasma. They're using metal. Unpowered projectiles. No lock-on warning. No signature. Command destroyed. Relays silent. All reserve captains to fallback posture." The Thalrix were advanced. Their weapons were faster, smarter, clean. But they weren't made for this kind of war. They had no defense for an enemy who didn't care about elegance, just impact. Back on Earth, Voss coordinated with other launch sites. Phase 2 of Project Thunderclap was now online. From Antarctica, a mobile rail battery, hidden beneath glacial camouflage, spun up. From the Mojave Desert, an automated launch platform emerged from hardened steel bunkers. 5 hidden howitzers, some modified for mobility, others for rapid fire, came online across the planet. "We're tied into global targeting relays," Awan confirmed. "Stealth drones have painted multiple enemy vessels. Prioritize dreadnoughts and logistics ships," Voss ordered. "Break their spine." Moments later, Earth fired back again. 5 shots, 5 kills, each one a masterpiece of physics and brutality. Ships pierced, detonated, shredded. And all without a single plasma burst or high-frequency laser, just raw, unforgiving kinetic energy. And still, no response from the Empire that mattered. Their ships kept dodging, guessing, fleeing. They couldn't trace the firing signature fast enough. Their countermeasures were too slow. In orbit, Thalrix commanders finally authorized planetary bombardment. A lone cruiser descended into the upper atmosphere. Its underbelly opened, revealing a plasma payload meant to burn through an entire human city. Voss saw the alert on her screen. Target acquired, she snapped. Thor's grasp fired again. The slug connected mid-drop. The cruiser disintegrated mid-fall, its payload exploding prematurely in the stratosphere. Far below, civilians looked up at a flash of light that was gone as quickly as it came. City saved, Awan said. Voss nodded once. We don't miss. For the first time since the invasion began, the Thalrix fleet retreated. Not to regroup, not to reposition, to survive. In the Imperial command channels, the message was clear. Earth has developed anti-orbital kinetic strike capability beyond prediction models. Their technology is primitive but devastating. Recommend full strategic withdrawal. In the silence that followed, Earth's signal went out across open space. Voss had written it herself. We don't need fancy weapons. We don't need shields. We aim. We fire. We kill. If you come for Earth, bring more than arrogance. The last volley. The stars above Earth were still. No new Thalrix ships appeared in orbit. No plasma beams rained down. Just silence, and the distant trails of wreckage spiraling through the upper atmosphere, glowing like falling embers. In the underground command center beneath the Kazakh steppe, Colonel Sarah Voss stood alone before the main tactical display. The blue glow flickered across her face as a dozen red markers blinked out one by one. She didn't relax. Not yet. Lieutenant Awan approached quietly. No new movement. Confirmed withdrawal trajectory for the surviving fleet fragments. They're burning hard for lunar shadow and slingshotting out system. Any signs of drones or retaliation? Nothing. Just silence. Voss nodded. That's the sound of fear catching up to them. She turned toward the operations table where the remnants of Earth's defense teams monitored every sensor feed. The atmosphere had changed. Fatigue settled on their shoulders, but underneath it was a raw, glowing pride. Get me orbital uplink to the Security Council, she said. A few keystrokes later, Voss was patched into Earth's emergency command grid. Generals, presidents, and ministers from every continent stared back from their split-screen displays. She didn't wait for ceremony. The Thalrix have retreated beyond engagement range. As of this hour, Earth's orbital territory is clear. Project Thunderclap has delivered 12 confirmed kills and 5 deterrent strikes. We estimate less than 30% of their initial force remains intact. The South American ambassador leaned forward. Is it over? Voss considered. They won't forget what we did. But for now, they're bleeding and afraid. I believe we've bought time. Maybe peace. The Chinese general spoke next. And the weapon? Voss glanced back at the reinforced wall that hid Thor's grasp. The barrel was still warm from its last volley. It stands ready, she said. Should they return? Someone on the council asked the question that had been hanging over every head. Or do we win? Voss gave a tired smile. We didn't fight like they expected. They thought we'd challenge them in the sky. So we hit them from the dirt. They built for precision, shielding, and finesse. We built for mass, velocity, and impact. They mocked our old ways, called us primitive. She tapped the table, and then we punched holes through their most advanced ships with nothing but steel and speed. That's how. The feed went quiet. In orbit, Thalrix fleet remnants reassembled in the dark between planets. Aboard one of their surviving dreadnoughts, high-legged Zyrak reviewed the disaster in silence. His mask, once pristine, was cracked. His voice, once cold and taunting, now trembled with restrained fury. They broke us, muttered one of his subcommanders. Zyrak's claws clenched. No, they reminded us that simplicity can be deadly. That arrogance is vulnerability. That the old gods of war are not dead. They are merely waiting. The Imperial fleet limped away, wounded in pride more than numbers. Their war doctrine would change. Their strategies would evolve. But one truth would echo in every Thalrix war hall from this day forward. Never underestimate a cornered species armed with gravity, rage, and tungsten. Back on Earth, days passed. Then weeks. No further incursions came. Project Thunderclap transitioned to a deterrence role. New howitzers were constructed in secret across the globe. What was once an aging relic had become Earth's signature threat. And it had a voice now, one that echoed in military doctrine, political speeches, and civilian culture. We don't need energy beams. We have artillery. Colonel Voss returned to the Kazakh site one last time before reassignment. Alone in the firing chamber, she stood before the great bore of Thor's grasp, reaching upward into shadowed steel. She placed her palm against the metal. "You gave us a chance," she whispered. "That's all we ever needed." Behind her, a small plaque had been welded into the wall by the maintenance team. It read, "Here stands thunder. Let none rise against it." She walked out without ceremony, the echoes of footsteps lost in the chamber's belly. Far above, the sky was clear. For now, and if ever again the Empire returned, Earth would answer the same way it always had, with thunder.